Hello, a very warm welcome to Fireside Chats. My name is Magela Pillai, and today we are looking at the fascinating subject of the enlightened witness. If this is strange to you, fear not. Kick off your shoes, sit back and enjoy the next half an hour, because Sister Denise, who is an experienced practitioner of Rajyoga Meditation, will take us through not just the understanding of this fascinating subject, but the experience of it. In this series, we look at a variety of subjects surrounding spirituality, what it means to you, what your real identity is, as well as how one can have a more and deeper, fulfilling relationship with God. So thank you so much for joining us. And Sister Denise, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
The enlightened witness. Sister Denise, I would like to start on this note. In 1997, I read an article that you had published in then the Retreat magazine in Oxford, where you stated, I think the article was entitled "The Actor, the Ego," something to that effect, and you said that the purpose of our spiritual practice is to awaken the observer within. I found that to be arrestingly beautiful, because it was so profound in its depth. Could you tell the viewer what you mean by those words?
When we are operating as someone who is developing the self spiritually, we are in time, we are in space, we are in action, and many things happen to us. So we get caught into that, we get influence, we react, all of these things are there, and we don't know that there's any other way that we can be. Now, spirituality says you have to realize that you're an actor and you can play the scene anyhow you want. When you are engaged in a spiritual practice, you're practicing meditation, you're also studying spiritual knowledge. At the same time, you're leading life, you have various things going on. And part of the teachings are, there's a drama going on, you're an actor, you're in situations which arise, persist, subside, another one arises, etc. So you have to be the master of your performance. And in order to do that, you need to be able to step back from yourself so that you can actually really assess the situation and direct yourself, just as a director would be there to direct an actor, so that you perform your role exactly the best possible way and not come under any influence, certainly not confuse yourself with the character or confuse yourself with the situation. And this is, I think, what it means to awaken the observer.
Sister Denise, why perform this practice? What is wrong with our current state of being? Because there are very few who know what you just said, and even fewer who actually practice it. So why do it? What do you get out of it that you do not get from the ordinary way of being?
Well, what happens in the ordinary way of being is you get caught up in it. When you're caught up, you become victimized by it, and you start to perform action, which is a reaction to the circumstances. And then that action is very often what we call negative karma, or you are provoked, different emotions will occur, and you will do karma on the basis of those emotions. You'll put yourself into karmic debt. You will do actions that you would subsequently regret. You will find yourself getting caught in karmic bondages, getting tied into relationships of bondage, and you are not free. And so what you get out of it is you become the master, you become free, and you can, really be on the same side of the table with God watching the performance, you can actually play your role with God in the circumstances of the drama. So, you know, the actor and God, the director, are really working together closely. So there you become truly a hero actor. And of course, when you are the main character in any drama, well, you're the star of the show.
When one continues this awareness or this practice, what does it do for you? What are the effects of performing or living like this, being like this?
I think that you are much more subtle, more detached. You are very much more your own person. You would not feel under the influence of anything. You would not feel victimized or enslaved, or in any way that you can't do anything about your circumstances. You really feel, you know, on top of the world, that yes, everything is there for me, you know, rather than like a leaf in the wind that you don't have any control over anything.
And Denise, in terms of the power of the human soul, by being the observer, are you, is there an accumulation of power? Because the other scenario, the ordinariness with which we all live, your answer implied a loss of power. So what happens when you're the observer? Do you manage your power differently?
Well, you definitely manage your power differently. Anyway, also you are drawing power from God on a continuing basis. You're playing your performance with God. You are following the guidance and direction of God. So your performance is qualitatively different. And you are able to really absorb power, absorb light, and perform as really a master, you know, and this is a very different thing.
I have a twofold question for you. At every point in our lives, there is external drama unfolding. You use the observer to, well, gain internal power over external drama. That's what you just said, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what do you do when your drama unfolds inside of you? By that I mean, when your past trauma, if you experience trauma, negativity, your dark side, your bad temper, you know, the list is endless. Whatever your weaknesses are, depression, for example, if it pops up and presents itself and threatens to overwhelm you, which is the way most people experience their inner world. So how do you manage that inner world?
Just as you can be the detached observer of the external drama, you can bring yourself to another level and watch what's going on in the inner drama. Because, you know, there are 3 levels. One is the physical world, where what we call regular reality is going on. On another level, which is the level powered by the mind, all of the inner dramas are going on. But there's a 3rd level, which is the level where God dwells, the level of the original place of the soul. And from there, you can watch what's going on in the inner world with just as much detachment as you can watch what's going on the outer world. And this gives you immense capacity and immense power over what's happening, and you really don't have to get overwhelmed by it at all, but it's a position that you have to shift to.
Okay, so Denise, you know, most people are of the view that I am my feelings. These are my feelings. These are my thoughts. Even if they're negative and ugly and, well, X, Y, Z, good feelings, bad feelings, these are my feelings. So what you are saying is that the observer creates a distance between the observer and the observed. When feelings come, they rush into the mind, and then they take over. So how are you able, when feelings strike, whether things go wrong or not, how do you manage this to pull this off? Because what you're describing is a state that takes power. It takes a lot.
Of course it takes power, but you gradually accumulate it. And just as you said, this is me and these are my feelings. So there is a difference between me and what is mine. And when you say these are my feelings, it means you are the master of them. So even if they're mine, they still have to operate the way you want, because they're your possessions. They're not you. They're possessions. So
that's where a lot of us make the mistake, don't we? Because it's a very deep seated belief or a state of being of almost all of humanity, that I am my thoughts and I am my feelings. And you are saying?
I am me, and anything for which I use the word mine is a possession. It's not the same as me. Like, you know, this chair is my chair, I'm sitting on it, it's not me. I don't say me feelings, my feelings. Okay. There's a difference. And I think that what you do in your spiritual awareness is you really distinguish between what's me and what's mine. So physical things can be mine, feelings can be mine, ideas can be mine. When you are possessive of your possessions, the problem is the possessions take over. And so when you are activating your enlightened observer self, the enlightenment is that you know very well that these are possessions, they are not me.
Sister Denise, I heard a while ago that when someone has experienced a trauma, that trauma becomes part of their identity. And so it permeates your entire inner world, where you feel, I am a ... Okay? How do you use the observer to cure yourself of this internal malady?
One of the things you do is you identify the moment when the trauma occurred, because before it occurred, it hadn't existed. Mm-hmm. And there is a you, a state of being you, before that. And then there is the trauma, which, okay, it merged with you, but there is a pre-trauma you, and that pre-trauma you has validity. So that also helps you to realize that the trauma is like an external thing which came and mixed itself up with you. But by approaching it with a detached observer stage and remembering, telling yourself that, you know, what I am is a pure, peaceful, powerful, blissful soul, and this event came along and mixed itself into me. And I think that it's analogous to when alloy is mixed into gold. In the heat of the passion of a traumatic event, there is that mixing. But if you can bring yourself to the passion of love for God, that passion is enough for that to actually be pulled out of the soul, and then the soul returns to its original essential pure gold state. Mm. And that is really the success of Raj Yoga, and your enlightened observer self can facilitate that process very well.
This journey that you just described, this effort, takes time. and it takes an internal investment of energy, because you have to watch your feelings and watch your thoughts so that they don't take you over. How are you able to do that and still live? Because life demands your full and continuous external attention.
Life demands some attention.
Okay.
And there are little spaces in between. And you can actually take advantage of the spaces in between to take a moment to step back and look and see. And then you go into an action, complete that action, create the spaces in between things. That's very doable.
Okay, so it doesn't involve 24/7 attention.
No.
Okay. How is emerging your inner observer or enlightened witness? How is that impacting on your external life? What changes? There has to be some change. What changes?
Well, the fact that you're observing, the fact that you're using those moments in between, because activity always arises, persists, and subsides. And then there are these periods of time when nothing much is happening. The discipline of spiritual practice is you make use of the downtime to watch, to assess, to calculate, to see, and then you go into action, complete it, come out, take a look, go in. So this constant coming and going, being detached. It's not that there's just one thing going on all the time. Many things are happening. And I mean, there's a lot of activities that you do that don't require 100% of your attention. So you can be partially doing something and partially watching yourself doing it. It's perfectly possible.
When you emerge the inner observer, you accumulate power, don't you? What do you do with this power?
I think the power that you're accumulating enables you to really consolidate your sense of self, your connection with God, and then you are continuously sort of improving your performance and the atmosphere, vibration, everything is becoming more and more refined, and you're using your power to deal with situations more and more successfully, more and more precisely, and honing your skills.
Now, whether you emerge your inner observer or not, you as an individual have karma to settle. How does an enlightened witness settle their accounts with dignity? How are you able to do that?
This is a very important point. I think for that you need to really call upon your powers. You have to be able to tolerate different things which would normally, maybe provoke an emotion or something. Your power of tolerance, your power of accommodation, that you can hold the thing without it sort of spilling out or something like this, or being obvious. And you move yourself through that thing, and because you have this power of accommodation, you can actually deal with it while even doing something else at the same time, while meeting with someone, talking. You can actually do multiple things on the inner world, on the outer world, because you have the power to do that.
Tell us what you mean by the power to accommodate.
The power to accommodate is one of the 8 powers of Rajyoga, and it is a kind of ability to expand yourself, to be able to accommodate things that if you didn't have that power, you couldn't handle, couldn't manage it, it destabilizes you, this sort of thing. But with the power of accommodation, it's like whatever it is, you can hold it, you can flex with it, it's all right, it's not a problem, you see. And it doesn't stop you from being what you are or doing what you're doing.
We live in a world where human beings have become so vulnerable that at any given point in time, there are things that hurt the soul as well as threaten to hurt the soul. How does one protect oneself against this occurrence? And is emerging the observer the only tool that you use, or does the observer have other important friends within that can come to the assistance?
Plenty of things, plenty of weapons, plenty of devices. Oh yes,
secret stash of weapons.
Definitely.
Okay.
So, you know, the thing is, if you're a good, you know, there is this idea of being a spiritual warrior, because you are under attack from time to time by different things. And so, you know, you have your different equipment which can handle different things. Sometimes if you see, you know, on the movies, you have fighters who fight like 15 people at once with swords and grenades and whatnot. And so if you have, you know, your observer, your power of accommodation, your power to tolerate, your ability to withdraw, your lotus stage, your spinning the cycle, all of these equipments are methods that you can apply and shift from one moment to another, even in a situation that can be very complicated and complex, and you can still hold your balance in the midst of it all. And I think that's part of how you would calculate your success as a Raj Yogi, is if you can manage multiple difficulties at the same time.
Is God also a witness?
I would say very definitely.
Okay, does he also do? And does he do anything else except watch? Or does he do? Does he do? Okay, that came out wrong. You know what I mean.
I do.
Does he do?
God says that when the child, the student, takes a step of courage, God will give 1,000 steps of help. So that is definitely a phenomenon that happens. I think, you know, God the teacher wants to see how competent the student is at handling all the various tests that come along. And then when there is something that is obviously too much, too big, but you take your courage and you do it anyway, then there is, you know, help, light, energy, whatever it is, but you definitely feel, yeah, God is with you, and somehow or the other things work out well. And so God definitely gives a lot of attention to those who face difficulties with courage, yes.
The purpose of, one of the purposes of emerging one's inner observer is not to come under the influence of one's negativity. How does being an observer within redefine your personality in that sense?
I think when you are in the position of the observer and there's something that provokes a negative reaction, which is from your sanskaras, being a detached observer, you're able to see it perhaps coming even in advance of it actually getting to take over the situation, and you can adjust yourself in order to deal with it more successfully. The detached observer sees things in a dispassionate way, and when you're dispassionate about things, you really have all your faculties with you, that you're able to manage things. So it's very much to your advantage to be detached, dispassionate, stable, steady, not caught up.
A stage of power.
It is.
Okay. It all sounds like an extremely attractive spiritual package, and thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us on what is a fascinating subject. So there you have it, brothers and sisters. Sister Denise has shared and has drawn from her many years of spiritual experience what it means to be a detached observer or an enlightened witness. So for those of you who find this concept new, I do invite you to start practicing it to see whether it works for you. A very important thing that Sister Denise shared is that you're not your thoughts, and you can create a distance between yourself and your feelings, and especially you can also create some distance between you and your own weaknesses as well as all your negative traits. The feeling of being overwhelmed is a very heavy feeling, and there is hope because you realize that you're not your weaknesses, but instead you are your strengths. And as always, Sister Denise shared that when you engage in this practice, you have God's help in walking through life, and you can draw on His strength as well. So a very powerful and beautiful message on spirituality. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you again soon. Thank you and good day.